Well, thank you all for staying to the bitter end with us. And I'm Dr. Diane Rigoni, the Director Emeritus of the Breadfruit Institute, the National Tropical Botanical Garden, based on Kauai, and the main breadfruit collections in Hana, Maui. There's been a lot of research that has been done on breadfruit starting in the 1970s, and there's a lot of informational resources that are available, and I was excited to hear what Ian said about how do we kind of consolidate and make that information available. There's been some really good review papers on breadfruit and research. Noah Lincoln and his team were co-authored one of those. There's another paper on the nutritional component. So there's a lot of resource information already available, so I think you've given us good information on how you would like to see it or access it, because a lot of this information and scientific papers are behind paywalls. So it's no longer publish and perish if you're a researcher. It's publish or perish and pay for it as well, because we have to pay to publish, believe it or not. So what I'm going to ask is for the panelists to take 3 minutes to introduce themselves and who they are and the work that they do. And then what I'd like to do, because so many good questions came out this morning about research and research questions, is for us to be able to devote time to the roundtable discussions and Q&A with us again. So we'll just start, you see the list in the program. I'd like to start at the end and just have you all move this direction. Karine, if you could.
Thank you very much. Do I stand up or?
Yeah, whatever you're comfortable with.
Just seating. My name is Karine Bolchek. I work for Tissue Grown Corporation in California, Ventura County. And we are a tissue culture and research lab. So tissue culture, we clone trees. In this case, we do clone breadfruit trees. And we have 50 to 100 people on site, depending on the season. We do pistachios, walnuts, other ornamental plants, macadamias, and coffee plants too. The pros of tissue culture instead of traditional ways is, of course, the trees are disease-free. They are grown in a lab, so usually we can ship them internationally easily. For me personally, when I got involved in the breadfruit project 2 years ago, or 2.5, I didn't even know what breadfruit is. It's like, bread what? So when I got involved with Mary from Trees That Feed, we started lots of really, really, really nice projects all over the world. We shipped to the Caribbean, Belize, to Haiti, to Bahamas, to Kenya, to Guinea, to Uganda. So this really has been a movement, and I'm so proud to be part of it. And next one.
Aloha e nā kua, aloha e nā omakua, aloha e kākou. My name's Noah Kekuewa Lincoln, originally from South Kona on Hawaii Island. I wear a few different hats, but for this panel, I think my main hat is as a researcher with the University of Hawaii at Manoa in a position called Indigenous Crops and Cropping Systems. And I came at agriculture really through our native plants and conservation. And so it really worked kind of in our rare plants, in our forest restoration, in ecosystem restoration in Hawaii. And through that, kind of slowly drifted into agriculture. And so, my thoughts of research, right, is agriculture is just an ecosystem, right, that humans have a very close relationship and a heavy hand in. And so we really use that in terms of thinking about, the management and practices associated with our indigenous crops and ways of growing food. I'll leave that for an introduction. Thank you.
So my name is Noelle Dickinson, and I'm coordinator for the Breadfruit Institute. I also, I started with the Institute as a research technician and was tasked with establishing and managing the Breadfruit Agroforestry Project that's based at McBride Garden on Kauai. And so that project included work with, in collaboration with Craig Elovich, and you can find our guide, the Breadfruit Agroforestry Guide, online. My current work is kind of leading me in the direction of research. Well, not kind of, but it is leading me in the direction of research. And so with that, I hope to kind of make it less about what my research is and more about what are, these conversations today have been very enlightening for me. So what are the people wanting to know? What are they wanting to research? And then ultimately, the goal will be to better curate and kind of build on the information that we have about the collection at NTBG, and how we can better manage it and provide more access to it. So that's some of my work. Here you go.
Bulavinak, everyone. My name is Mohinesh Reddy. I'm from the Fiji Islands. I work over at the Pacific Farm Organizations. I worked there as a project manager for the new Pacific Breadfruit Project, which is going to be implemented in 5 countries in the Pacific, which include the Solomon Islands. We've got the Cook Islands, Fiji, PNG, and Tonga. So the main focus of the project is farmer-led responses to facilitate and strengthen the capacity of farm organizations. A main component of the project is going to be farmer-led research. And that's something that's going to be at the core of the project, and maybe we can talk about a bit on that later on, but that's it for now. Vinaka.
Aloha, everyone. My name is Annie. I'm a scientist from Samoa. So I'm just used to working in the lab all day and have extreme fear of public speaking, something that temporarily forgot when I was asked to panel. Here it goes. I think similar to Stephen Hazelman, David from Cook Island, I have that similar experience with breadfruit growing up. It was something that was widely abundant. We also disliked it because we had to pick up the rubbish. But I was really fortunate to have it as, I think, a staple in my diet growing up. And up to now, I love it. So I think I'm really happy to see this kind of initiative to push breadfruit in countries. It's like alien to me that there are countries that don't have a lot of breadfruit and don't eat it every day. So I'm really happy that this is happening for those kind of areas. But so as I mentioned, I'm from the Scientific Research Organization of Samoa, and we do a wide variety of research, and we grow in our area of research every year. Like, for example, plant technology, food science, environment renewable energy. We have accredited laboratories for bio and chemistry testing, that kind of thing. But I'll just focus the type of research that we do for our discussion today on just environment, as well as food security, because that's the main topic. So we do a lot of value added for our trees, like breadfruit, taro, and examples of that, the products that I brought today. So the work we do, we develop processes for value-added products, and then we share it with community groups or farmers or the private sector or for anyone to uptake. And our vision is to see our communities or our people or our private sector produce it on a normal everyday basis so that these foods are available on an everyday basis as opposed to imported foods. So that's like Saras's vision. But more recently, a project that I'm passionate and part of is our biomedicinal research, where we're researching our staple foods like breadfruit and any locally available plant material for their biomedicinal bioactivity or their potential to yield bioactive compounds for functional foods, for development of functional foods or drugs for, ailments that our people face on an everyday basis. So 3 areas of focus, biomedicinal research focusing on the moment. It's anti-cancer, anti-diabetes, and antimicrobial. So that's it from me. Thank you.
Hello, Bula everybody, and thanks a lot for the opportunity of presenting on behalf of CPACT. So CPACT stands for Center for Pacific Crop and Trees, and we are a regional gene bank for the Pacific. We started our activities in 1998. We are based in Suva, the capital city of Fiji. So what we do is long-term conservation of plant variety and population of the Pacific. So using different methodologies. We have a big in vitro collection over 2,000. We have 2,181 varieties, 70% of which are from the Pacific. And we hold the largest collection of taro in the world, over 1,100 accession, 300 of yam, sweet potato, 150 of banana. And if you like smaller, but only in number, not in importance, also breadfruit. So we have 13 different variety in vitro of breadfruit, but also a breadfruit plot where we grow the plants, let's say a field collection, if you like, with 33 different varieties. We don't only conserve, but also distribute, when, of course, we are allowed by the donor country to distribute. And a nice thing, in general, when you request material from an international gene bank, they will send you a small sample, like 10 plants, 50 seeds. But we try also to supply larger number of planting material, 1,000, 100, and so on. So we are able to do that, so to do also mass propagation. We mostly send within the Pacific, but also across the world. Just to give you some numbers, we have sent over 96,000 individual plantlets since the beginning of 2000 up to today. And focusing on breadfruit, I was looking at our distribution records earlier. And so from 2010 to today, we have sent more than 4,000 plantlets to different countries, specifically in the Pacific, but not only. And yes, what else? That's basically what we do. And as you can understand, there is a lot of research involved and a lot of new area that we are exploring. We are upgrading a seed lab, so not only in vitro, but also for seeds that can be dried and put under sub-zero temperatures. We are upgrading a lab. We have a new molecular lab facility for virus indexing and the genotypic characterization. And yeah, thanks a lot.
All right, thank you very much. Take that back. So with Kyle's concurrence, what I'd like to do, we want to end promptly at 4:30, so we have the time after devoted to our final gathering and socializing. So 15, 20 minutes max for your groups, your roundtable groups. And if there are only like 2 of you at your table, please join another table so there are more of you, because we've had such great engaging discussions earlier today. So I'd like for you not only to look at the assigned topic, which was group discussions on research partnerships. What came out of this morning's session is some research gaps or perceived research gaps. So include that in your discussions, and one person at each table, of course, take notes and bring us to questions. But I'd also like to leave a little bit of time in that, so maybe 15 minutes for the group discussions, unless you really get excited and carried away, is for anyone if you have specific questions for any members of the panel, if we could have a little bit of time for that as well. So what we're going to do, the panelists, we're going to turn our mic off here at the table, and we're going to talk about those same things ourselves. So take it away. Thank you all. We had some very specific questions, and then we had some broad-based ones. And so we're going to briefly answer your specific questions, but what we'd like to touch on first is that in all of our discussions and looking at the questions that came in, is that there are obviously broad themes, overarching areas of research that's already been done and that needs to be done, and that would cover a lot of these topics. One of those is mass propagation and propagation, tissue culture. as one method. Another one of those came out of a question about feeding bright fruit to pigs. So then that's an area of animal husbandry, is using breadfruit as an animal feed. A big one, of course, is agronomy. How do you grow trees? And then there are many others that came out of those. But some of the broad topics that we need to think about, what are those broad topics and research topics? But specific ones, we were all asked, the panel, I'd like us to answer as a group, is breadfruit the crop for the future? Yes. Yes. Oh, come on, more resounding than that, yes. Come on. How, Noah, I'd like you to tackle this one. How can farmers connect to researchers?
So the question was, how can farmers connect to researchers? My first answer would be to a little bit flip it. I do feel it should be the responsibility of researchers to connect with farmers, and recognize that, that as researchers, and often situated within institutions and organizations, we have access, right, to resources and things that a lot of time farmers, both don't have the time to do and access and might, just physically or logistically not have access to. I think that's the ideal answer. Of course, like anything, researchers are individuals and everyone has their own approach and own priorities. That said, it's pretty easy to find people and reach out. Personally, I respond to every single request I get, whether it's a farmer or a backyard grower or, or other researchers. And so, I don't think there's a magic formula. I think it's literally just giving them a call, and if they don't answer, then calling again.
Thank you. So let's go back to a couple of the real broad topics for research. What are some of how do we quantify and what are the environmental benefits, such as carbon sequestration, looking at soil health, soil diversity, that's a big research topic around breadfruit, as well as nutritional composition of fruit. So there are many research topics, and maybe at some point we can have a research summit to really talk about what has been done and what are the needs around the research topics for breadfruit. And then I'd like Annie to answer this question. Is there was a question about how much energy is required to produce flour?
Hey everyone. So it's mostly depends on how much you want to produce. So if it's for your community, small scale production, then it's just muscle energy. Then it doesn't require any, because the process is really general. So it's basically peeling, slicing, drying, and grinding. So that's it. So if you're doing it small scale to feed your family or your community, you can do it manually. The drying can be solar drying or air drying, and the grinding can be done manually with a manual grinder. But if you're wanting to mechanize it or upscale to commercial, then that will require you purchasing a commercial dryer or a dehydrator and a commercial, and an electrical grinder. So then it'll be more energy intensive. So it depends on the scale of production that you're wanting to look at. But we trained a lot of communities in Samoa to produce their own flour, and it's all done manually. So we provide them with trays for drying. We even provide them for a model if they want to build a solar dryer. And grinding, they do it manually, so it doesn't require any energy at all. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll keep it. Okay. And one of the questions was, how can breadfruit produce year-round? And that's a complicated question. As far as I know, there is no one variety that produces harvestable fruit year-round, but we do have a couple of varieties in our collection that over time produce almost year-round, at least have fruit on the tree. So I would hate to see us go the route of using chemicals to induce flowering and fruiting, but that's your choice as farmers if you want to do that. But I think a selection of good varieties to have as much expanded production as possible, but again, there are going to be environmental constraints. So that is a big research topic, and NOAA and many other people have started, in the Caribbean, other places have started looking at what are those variety environmental interactions. So we had a lot of other questions. Thank you all very much. It would take a whole day, I think, a day like this to discuss these kind of questions. And I think what this shows is as we as researchers, we tend to go to scientific conferences where we meet with other scientists and we discuss and talk about our research. But I think for us to proceed is for us to get to come together as farmers, as farmer organizations, as entrepreneurs, and other people involved in it, and come together with the researchers to have that kind of discussion and see what kind of work is being done at different places. So we're going to wrap this session up because we were asked if we would devote a few minutes to giving the stage to this young woman. I don't see her. Is she here still? There you are. From Kauai. She lives 2 miles away from me, and I'm just meeting her here today for the first time, who is making this really wonderful product that she'll talk about. And it's great to see someone making this because there has been research done on breadfruit flour that started almost 30 years ago, and it's exciting to see a young entrepreneur embrace this and take it on and make this really cool product. So please come on up, and thank you all for today.
Aloha. Thank you so much for your precious time today, and thank you for sharing. I'm so honored to share the stage right now with you all. I'm a little bit overwhelmed with just all the incredible information being shared today and just the passion of all the farmers and the people connected at all the different sections of the sustainable food systems that we're all passionate about building together. My name is Dominique Chambers, and I make a gluten-free noodle out of Kauai-grown breadfruit, also known as ulu. It started out sort of as a whimsy. I saw an edible Hawaii ulu flour, and I'm a pastry chef, and it really just blew me away, all of these ingredients that this wonderful woman named Lourdes was making. I love working, as a pastry chef, your challenge is water. You want to work with things either with extra water or you want to take the water away. And you want to add air, you want to take away air. Every pastry chef's secret ingredient is time. And so this breadfruit flour was so exciting to me. And I spent all of a whole year developing recipes and working with it. And there was a serendipitous turn of events that led me to make pasta. And it's just been a lot of fun since then. I've had the opportunity to learn about the food systems on Kauai and to interact with farmers and people that grow breadfruit in their backyard. My process is I'm sometimes lucky enough to be able to purchase it from my friend, Lourdes of Sustainable Boost, and at times I process it myself. Sometimes I go pick it from the tree, and then we wash it, and we peel it, and slice it. I do it by hand. Recently, I was a part of a business incubator, and we were given a financial award, and I was able to purchase some equipment to make my process a little bit more efficient. And hopefully, I can do more things with that extra time and also reduce the cost that this product is so that it can be accessible to more people in our community. Because it is such a nutritious food, and in my eyes, like as a pastry chef, it kind of always hurt me to be making things filled with so much sugar that people really enjoy, but ultimately it's poison. And to come here, and I grew up in restaurants where we have to work with ingredients that are grown where we are, and that's really important. And then all of a sudden I find myself on an island where that's not just cool, it's not just in, it's actually a vital way of living. And looking at sort of the statistics of how much food is imported and like how much of it, pretty much all of the food that we consume is imported. I think it's 85 to 90%. And it just really blew me away, because when I first came to Hawaii, I was so stunned. There's vanilla growing, there's lilikoi, there's pretty much everything that's a pastry chef's dream is just dropping on the ground available. And I'm so honored to be able to work with a product that not only nourishes people's bodies, but that I hope one day can inspire more products. And yes, thank you very much for your time.